Story 1. Watching from the outside, consider yourselves fortunate that he made English the official language and not American. Story 2. I expected this when he named it Gulf of America. Anything that makes a headline with little effort is going to happen. Story 3. I suspect this is a precursor to removing some or all foreign language pages from government websites. Within days or even hours of the inauguration, the Spanish version of the official White House webpage was taken down. I don't know if it is back up, but if it is, it may not be for long. Story 4. Just a distraction for his supporters. He undermines them by taking away their health care and raising their taxes. But here is a racist provocation so they have something to focus on. Story 5. I thought it was already established. If someone had asked me a year ago what the official language of the United States was, I would have confidently guessed English. Story 6. Alaska has over 20 official languages, all of which are native languages. This executive order will be used to halt all public education of indigenous languages, continuing the cultural genocide of Native people and serving as a precursor to violence. Story 7. It is similar to calling the sky blue, but does it have any impact other than stating the obvious? People can still speak whatever language they want, can't they? Story 8. I don't have a strong opinion on it, but I think he should be addressing these matters through Congress and not through executive orders. At this point, he has primarily relied on executive orders, and I'm starting to wonder what role, if any, Congress will have in this administration. Story 9. I honestly don't care. This is just noise. This is one of those things people shouldn't pay too much attention to. Story 10. I can't help but feel that it is the basis for discrimination against anyone speaking a secondary language, or primarily a different language than English. Story 11. 80% of people probably didn't know we had no official language. It is a signal for pseudo-traditional racists. This is a slap in the face to all members of our immigrant population, including those who are here legally. It used to be a fact that we had no official language, reflecting our country's celebration of diversity and progress. The former president has now issued an order effectively stating that we no longer uphold this. Story 12. I don't know what the executive order does regarding changes, but I believe English should be the language all laws are written in and interpreted by the courts. English should be the primary language and alphabet used to identify business entities. Locally, there were businesses that had signs with no English lettering, such as a Korean strip mall that displayed only Korean characters. Emergency services had difficulty locating the businesses they were called to, so the city passed regulations requiring that the English name be included on signs. The use of other languages was not banned. They just had to include English as well. I am in favor of regulations like that, but other issues may not be as favorable. Story 13. Talking points and distractions take up column inches but do not really matter. What does matter? On Question Time, a political program in the United Kingdom, someone brought up the point that acts like renaming things are meant to cause uproar. But it does not really matter. What matters is the stance with Zelensky and the fact that Trump has indicated a willingness to default on defending Taiwan. This points towards a potential agreement between him, Putin, and Xi to divide the world, and they would sell us all down the river to do so. Initially, I scoffed and thought it was nonsense, but it has been on my mind. Story 14. It means nothing, just another distraction for people like him and his supporters who couldn't pass an English test on their best day. Story 15. We are one of only 5 countries in the world that does not have an official language. It makes perfect sense to do this. Story 16. God forbid you speak the language of the country you are in. I have been to Japan, Spain, Nicaragua, and South Korea before I turned 25. I had a phrase book for the non-Spanish speaking countries. I am 42 now. You should be able to speak the language and familiarize yourself with the customs of the country you are in. It is not a difficult request if that is hard for you. You are special. Story 17. Has it not always been? I know the United States is a melting pot, but English has always been the main language. Story 18. I feel that in 4 years, another executive order will simply reverse it, along with the majority of the poor decisions he has made. Story 19. largely unnecessary. English is already the most spoken language in the United States by a high margin. All official United States documentation, communication, and legislation is written in English. It is a publicity stunt. No doubt he will quietly reduce or withdraw federal funding for affordable English programs for adults, allowing some unethical corporation to swoop in and charge a premium. Supporters will cheer as they enjoy another beer, and some individuals may decide it is not worth moving to the United States if they have to budget for government-mandated but not government-supported English lessons as well. Story 20. Toothless. Nothing is going to change in people's lives, but the group will still promote it as if it is the best thing anyone has ever done. Story 21. That would be the responsibility of the legislative branch. I am glad the senior individual is being entertained by his advisors. I bet he enjoys signing his name on drawings. Story 22. I don't really care. In the grand scheme of things he has done, this is literally nothing. English is already the official language in all but name. It's not like they were having debates in German in Congress. Story 23. Red meat for his supporters is meaningless and performative. It is a distraction that creates the illusion of action while taxes are cut for billionaires. Story 24. I don't care about what Trump did. However, yesterday I visited my old hometown and walked into a restaurant where there were no employees who could speak English. I had to use my phone to translate what I wanted into Spanish. To me, that is concerning. Clearly, I have nothing against immigrants. Otherwise, I would not be supporting their businesses. I just find it strange that no one seems to be attempting to learn the most widely spoken language in this country. Story 25. I'm choosing to interpret this as an opportunity for something the Make America Great Again movement and the Republican Party at large will support. We know how sensitive he is to criticism from his first term. I wouldn't say he cares about polls or would necessarily believe them if they were presented, but he does dislike being criticized on television. Story 26. Useless paperwork and executive orders only apply to agencies under his control, all of which operate in English already. He appears to be lacking in understanding. Story 27. As meaningful as the Gulf of America, it changes nothing and is most likely just an attempted distraction for how openly supportive of Putin Trump has been. Story 28. It would be nice if Americans could speak and read English well. There is no need to nitpick about speaking a second or third language. Speaking English well would be a significant achievement. Story 29. People need to learn what an executive order is. These are not usually laws. They apply to the executive branch of the federal government and can be undone on the first day of the next administration. The problem is that this individual is reckless and pushing the boundaries while we have a weak Congress. Story 30. It has been the designated language. It is part of the immigration test for citizenship. For naturalization, a person must have the ability to read, write, and speak English, and they must have an understanding of American history and government. English, being the official language, is purely symbolic. Very few Americans, if any, are successful without English. Story 31. He is treating them like royal decrees. It is one of the most un-American things he could do. It is likely to be immediately reversed the next time a Democrat is in office. Story 32. Show me something from the federal government or state government that isn't already in English. This is simply political theatrics. Story 33. Literally against the wishes of the founders. The reason that English was not the official language from the beginning was the huge number of German speakers at the time of the 13 colonies. Story 34. I saw on The Onion the other day, Trump signs executive order making remedial English the official language. Story 35. Finally, the United States will speak proper English and spell and pronounce words correctly. Next, we will make the change to the metric system. Story 36. Nothing is significant. English is the primary language, so there is no difference. It is not illegal to speak another language. Story 37. It is a blatant virtue signal and a distraction from more serious and damaging actions this administration is currently undertaking. It plays into Russian objectives, allows an unauthorized agency unrestricted access to sensitive national and personal data without oversight, and unlawfully consolidates judicial power within the executive branch. It selectively controls the press and undermines the institutions of the United States government that millions of us depend on. We are witnessing our nation's rapid decline into dictatorship while absurd orders like this are issued to divert our attention from these actions as they occur. Story 38. As a college professor of English, I have many thoughts about the topic. One essay I like to teach comes from a textbook called Bad Ideas About Writing, and the essay is titled American English is Best by Stephen Alvarez. Alvarez argues that English-only initiatives at the state level have not produced any evidence to support their claims about increasing proficiency among emergent bilingual students or aiding public communication. He also writes that the narrow-minded view suggesting English only is the only model for literacy learning should be put to rest. English only does not contribute to meaningful education on any grounds. Decades of research into bilingual learning strongly advocates for all students plurilingual learning. There are many tangible benefits to plurilingualism: stronger vocabularies, the ability to translate and interpret across languages, and other complex skills. Finally, he argues that the real limit for all students is mainstreaming policy that undermines the plurilingual gifts of our nation. All Americans stand to gain by learning to speak, read, and write in many languages. Decades of research prove the harm these kinds of initiatives cause, which are based solely on bias, prejudice, and racism, rather than a desire to strengthen our country and its citizens' literacy. Story 39. It is absolutely ridiculous. It's such a joke and a performative act just to make others uncomfortable. Who is so insecure that they feel the need to make English the official language? That is really going to change anything for marginalized communities. Enough with the nonsense. Some political groups are truly delusional. Story 40. It's unfortunate. The United States is a melting pot, and not having an official language has given this country its unique character. Now it feels like a place of division, with some wealthy individuals exerting their influence in negative ways. Story 41. It was already the default language, so of everything he has done, this falls into the less concerning category. Story 42. Trump may be a controversial figure, but the policy itself has merit. Making English a mandatory language could help immigrants assimilate and bridge communication gaps. English is the global language of business, and teaching it would enhance individuals' value to society. I believe it would be a good idea for the Democratic Party to support this initiative. If implemented effectively, it could benefit many people and draw those who may have previously opposed us to our side. Story 43. It's literally the main language here, so I feel fine. Seriously, how are people so upset about this? Story 44. As an Englishman, I resent the use of English as the official language. Couldn't it just be called American? I would probably feel less ashamed then. Story 45. I believe things will improve if we continue to share engaging political content on Reddit. This approach could help attract more people to our perspective. Story 46. I love my city's Chinatown, which supported Trump in 2024. I just saw a guy speaking Russian on his phone in the store while wearing a Make America Great Again hat, and I wanted to remind him that we only speak English here. Story 47. Oh good. Finally, official government paperwork will be available in English. Important government safety announcements can now be made in English. Our beloved public schools will finally be permitted to teach in English. Accident rates will decrease as road signs switch to English. I am personally excited and hope that private businesses follow suit and begin printing signage and packaging in English. Thank you for this meaningful change that was worth the tax dollars we paid for it. Story 48. I feel the same way about the Gulf of America issue. It is meaningless and lacks substance, serving only as virtue signaling. Only the members of the group benefit, and even then, it only fuels their tendency for exaggerated displays of pride. Story 49. It is discriminatory to expect travelers to Mexico to learn Spanish. Story 50. As someone who travels internationally often, I am grateful that many people speak English outside of our country. It is a tremendous source of comfort when I try to use translation tools or my limited language skills to check into a hotel, and suddenly the host begins speaking to me in English. It's incredibly calming and feels safe and friendly, with so many positive aspects I could mention. This is why I am astonished that our own government does not strive to bring that same support to everyone. Government exists for the people, which means it should use the languages of its citizens. While I understand that Americans speak hundreds of languages, making it impossible to cater to all of them, how difficult would it be to have our documents available in a few common languages, or to have a contracted service available to assist with translations? Even as an employee, I feel relieved when I have someone who can help me translate and better connect with my clients. This situation reflects hate and spite, offering absolutely no positive value to the public. Story 51. It is pointless and only serves to pander to his followers, stirring them up about a non-issue as usual. Story 52. Men who feel the need to make others talk, act, and dress like them are weak. What makes this country great is its melting pot of diverse cultures and groups. This also involves experiencing things in ways you may not be accustomed to. I personally love the differences among people and find them fascinating. A house is boring if all the walls are plain white and lack decorations. Story 53. I will actually give this one to Trump. It was the official language for decades, even if it was not officially recognized. Story 54. Other countries have official languages, so it wasn't an issue before. I think it is an issue now because of recent actions. Story 55. He is wasting his time. I will continue to speak whatever language is needed as the situation requires. Story 56. Just another project for 2025 has been completed, yet many people remain unaware. This is more than just a distraction. Story 57. I want to know what he is trying to get away with while the public is upset about it. Story 58. The issue is not the language. The issue is that this is not a matter of an executive order. This is Trump asserting legislative authority and a legislature that will not object. Story 59. Just wasting everyone's time, proving he has no interest in doing the work he promised during the campaign. Story 60. There are many issues I would like to see Trump impeached for, but this is not one of them. I support having an official national language. Story 61. The effect of this decision would be the removal of all language resources from government websites, including translation services. While people often joke about American Sign Language services at large events, those would also be eliminated from government functions. Just because it may not affect you personally does not mean it will not have a broader impact. Voter pamphlets that you receive in the mail with multiple translations would be eliminated as well. Story 62. I am more concerned about how he is handling Ukraine and Russia tariffs. Honestly, I am not sure this makes the top 10 or 20. Story 63. Another completely unconstitutional action has symbolic but harmful effects. The question is how this translates into actions. Will documents no longer be translated? Will sign language be banned in public meetings? Will they expect us to believe that the statements made by Trump constitute English? Story 64. On the surface, it appears to be mere pandering and political drama, and that's how it is portrayed. However, this will eliminate all foreign language support by the United States government. Anyone dealing with the U.S. or state government in any capacity will have to know English or provide their own translator at their own expense. This includes the justice system. Law enforcement will no longer have to make provisions for foreign language speakers. If they stop a foreign language speaker, they do not have to make any effort to communicate. The same goes for jails and the court system. Yes, a non-English speaker can get a public defender, but that is the extent of it. The state does not have to provide an interpreter. Someone could be detained indefinitely or even sentenced to life in prison without ever being given a means to understand why. All other government services would remain the same. This also removes any official requirement for private institutions to provide foreign language support. Many will, but they are not obligated to. It is complete nonsense and pointless political theater. Story 65. He does many genuinely terrible things, then performs some empty gestures to make his fans feel like they are winning, while he does nothing to actually improve their lives and actively makes their situation worse. This is one of those instances. It is foolish and serves as a distraction while his party attacks Medicaid to fund additional tax cuts for the top 1%, which occurred a few days earlier. Story 66. I think it is a good idea. In a few years, it will be much easier to add Spanish to it. Then, by law, all government services must be offered in both English and Spanish. Story 67. It is pointless. He needs to focus on things that will genuinely help people. People who truly need help. Story 68. It essentially does two things, one symbolic and one counterproductive. The symbolic action is to declare that English is the official language of the United States, which does not achieve anything on its own. The counterproductive action is that it repeals a 2000 executive order requiring federal agencies to take basic steps to ensure that assistance programs, such as food stamps and Medicaid, are available in the languages spoken by the people who need them. For example, if you're in an area where many people's primary language is Mandarin, it is essential to provide materials in Mandarin. This change could make it harder for people to access the resources they need and may seem foolish in places like Puerto Rico and numerous Native American reservations. On the other hand, the regulations regarding ballots in foreign languages are established by law, so the former president should not be able to change those. Story 69. Who honestly cares one way or another? It literally does nothing positive or negative. It is the language of this country and won't affect anything. It seems like a waste of paper. Story 70. If he did that, it would not surprise me. I am not sure what it would change, though. It would be purely symbolic. People will continue speaking whatever language they need to. Story 71. On the surface, it seems benign. However, it also stated that federally funded organizations would not be required to include Spanish copies of forms. If a program is implemented to ensure that new immigrants receive English language classes, I would support it. While being unified in language is beneficial, I believe it could be used as a means of voter suppression for non-English speakers and may make government services less accessible. Story 72. Nothing. It is pointless because most people speak English anyway. It is only a problem if he starts trying to prohibit other languages. Story 73. It is attempting to reinforce approval for white nationalism. He took a hit by expressing his desire to open the doors for H-1B visas. This is the solution to that problem. Story 74. It is not law, so it does not matter. It is just Vice President Trump trying to add to the chaos. That is how he and President Musk operate. Story 75. California passed Proposition 63 in 1986 to designate English as the official language and allow residents to sue the state for noncompliance. Story 76. It means nothing really. Most countries have an official language, and all government documents have been in English since World War I. Having English as the official language changes nothing. It is just another distraction from things that actually matter. Story 77. Chernitsykes du yat ita, du kia diocaligi at ehanii eitaa also sod du ba hayanii. Story 78. It makes no difference. He could have designated it as Klingon, and it would have the same effect. It is a meaningless gesture that keeps members of his group on his side. Story 79. It is unnecessary. This is just him showcasing his power to feed his ego. The individual is addicted to feeling powerful. Story 80. I think it depends on what official language actually means. If it means that you cannot speak another language, that is a problem. If it means that all adults must be able to read, write, and speak English, that is probably a good idea. Story 81. It's incredibly nonsensical and not something that can be accomplished with an executive order. Can the next president decide that French is the official language? Story 82. It is strange for him to designate a foreign language as the official language. We are all driving trucks and drinking tea now. Story 83. He can do whatever he wants. I will still answer to the authorities in Esperanto. Hisu mian pugon six oranga turd sidalo. Story 84. Of the actions he has taken in the last 6 weeks, this is probably the closest to normal it gets. It does not actually do anything, but it is as offensive or downright evil as most of what he does. Story 85. Honestly, I don't care. I'm white and a native English speaker. I feel like this is a non-issue and didn't need an executive order, but go on with yourself. I don't really understand what this order would do in practice. It seems like our national correspondence has always been in English, so why do we need an executive order about it? I don't feel the need to issue an order to my family. The trash goes in the bin outside. It has always been that way. I don't see a need to emphasize it. Not when there are bigger issues my family needs guidance and help with, like, we're broke. Adult kids in the house. You need to get jobs. It seems like he's just signing executive orders left and right that really aren't issues. Trans issues? What language we speak. What's next? An executive order that we drive on the road and not the grass. I'd like to see the administration focus on something the people actually need them to focus on. Like maybe an executive order that we don't offend and upset the rest of the free world? Story 86. I love it. Now eggs will become cheaper because we won't have to translate for non-English speaking chickens. Story 87. I believe that English and Spanish should be the official languages of this country. However, I understand the reasons for not having an official language, as well as a state-sponsored religion or race. Story 88. It is not the reason I want him out of the White House, but it does not make me like him any better either. Story 89. I am excited about the plastic straws. Additionally, if we encounter major conflicts with our previously trusted allies, I would be fine with it, as long as we investigate Hunter's laptop thoroughly. Story 90. It is going to be a serious roadblock to Puerto Rican statehood and probably used to suppress Spanish and indigenous dissent to Trump policies. It will also jeopardize various rare dialects of non-English languages in the United States, such as New Mexican Spanish and Carriz. Story 91. A gold-plated empty vessel of a man. Meaningless rhetoric, just like Gulf of America, while embracing the flag and undermining the Constitution. Story 92. Honestly, I don't care much. English is the default language throughout most of the country. The troubling aspect is that it directs federal agencies to decide whether or not to continue offering documents in languages other than English. Story 93. I don't care. The majority of what he is doing legitimately has nothing to do with me. Whether English is official or not will have no effect on my life. None. They want to flood the airwaves with noise, so we are squabbling over this issue and not focusing on the important things. Don't fall for it. Is English being official going to impact some people? I suppose. But we are talking about just a small group of individuals directly involved in the executive branch. And as much as I think it's ridiculous, I don't believe the ban on transgender individuals in sports is important either. It would be if it were all he was doing, but we need to stay focused. Something that affects 10 people can't top the list right now. There will be time to address it later. They are using our psychology against us. If we lose the fight, it will be by spreading ourselves too thin, making priorities out of minor issues, and never coalescing around the big stuff. If we truly are the smarter side, this should not be hard to recognize. Just like winning a war means accepting some losses, winning against this authoritarian push requires that we let some issues slide by. We can address it all when we are in control. We are currently on defense. This isn't a hill we should die on. Stay focused. Story 94. It doesn't really mean anything, but it clearly shows the mindset they have. America should be the world's melting pot, as it has been since the late 1800s, but this goes against that. Story 95. I am not an American and I am indifferent to its politics, but can someone explain why people find this problematic and another reason to complain about Donald Trump? Unless this means Trump is going to send the police to arrest people for speaking a non-English language, I do not understand the issue. The education system is in English, official government documents and reports are in English, and US television is in English. Story 96. I feel he should be utilizing his time more productively. Alternatively, I suppose I could be content that he is not. Story 97. The objective is to make ballots available in English only. US citizens who do not speak or read English are now less likely to vote because they are unable to understand their ballots. Story 98. I don't really care. It won't make a difference. It is strange that I have a federal certification from a federal administration that requires me to read, write, and understand the English language. Story 99. It is unwise to engage in such actions. The motivation behind this appears to be divisive and aimed at appealing to his followers. The only individuals who seem to care are those with prejudiced views. Story 100. It's frustrating. As a Canadian, I am proud to have two official languages. I would love to learn more. Story 101. This is actually the first thing I'm not that concerned about. I'm as liberal as they come, and I'm a polyglot. English has always been the unofficial official language of the United States. This one doesn't matter in my opinion. It's not illegal to speak Spanish yet. Story 102. I don't care what that annoying, made-up person wants. Let them stick their executive order where the sun doesn't shine, as Putin already did. That's how I feel. Long live Spanish and other foreign languages. Story 103. I wonder what this means for Puerto Rico. Most signs are only in Spanish, but many websites have both Spanish and English. Story 104. Trump can't even speak English. He struggles with the simplest sentences. He can go massage Putin with scented oils, the orange individual that he is. Story 105. At this point, he is signing orders just to keep himself occupied. It's like a child with a coloring book. Story 106. Official languages are common around the world, so it's unusual that the United States does not have one. I come from a country with official languages. The reason behind this is the executive order, which reflects anti-immigration sentiments, and the fact that it is an executive order rather than legislation passed by Congress does not sit well with me. If it were to come from Congress, however, I think it would be more acceptable. Story 107. It is unnecessary and a waste of time. He is just performing for his supporters. There will be no change to daily life. He really needs to spend his time working for the people of this country, not against us. We need lower prices for gas and groceries, job security, and strengthened ties with our allies, among other priorities. Story 108. Trump signing an executive order declaring the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America and banning the use of paper straws is as legally binding as him ordering Taylor Swift to go out on a date with Elon Musk. Designating English as the official language of the United States would require federal government agencies to primarily use English, but that is already somewhat the case. As for the rest of us, if I want to speak English, I will. If I don't want to, I won't. Story 109. Bad idea. The Founding Fathers rejected it, so that is sufficient for me. In Texas, most documents and alerts are in English and Spanish. Will that change? Story 110. It's pandering for his base and nothing more. It makes me think he's already running out of ideas. Story 111. I feel annoyed and angry that my country is falling into authoritarianism, and it concerns me that half of the population is accepting it. Story 112. It seems like he might have pressing concerns, but that could just be my perception. Watch them squirm. Also, do not miss the message that God is sending us all. It is in plain sight. Story 113. Do people not think that individuals who don't speak English are at a disadvantage in America? What else do you need to consider it the official language for all intents and purposes? Story 114. Honestly, it's relieving when he engages in trivial activities like this, as it means he is not carrying out the harmful actions that his manipulative superiors desire. Story 115. I'm sure it has always been this way. I understand that Trump is controversial and engages in unusual actions. However, this is not one of those instances. Story 116. The official language of the executive branch has been effectively English for some time. It is now officially designated as such. This change will not alter anything, as the executive branch has always exclusively used English to conduct official government business. Story 117. It is a non-issue for now, much like the Gulf of America situation. It is designed to foment debate and division so that the most serious mistakes and directives are further buried. Story 118. Waste of time. Desperately trying to keep fans after that poor performance regarding Ukraine. Story 119. The language of Shakespeare doesn't need protecting. Story 120. Of all the executive orders he has signed, this is one of the least offensive. I don't mind the idea of English being the official language, but I do mind that important forms, documents, and information are offered exclusively in English. Let English be the official language, but also make information available to a wider range of people by translating it. There's no harm in that. My concern is that it appears they are going to start limiting the extent to which forms and information are available in other languages. Story 121. Republicans are fixing things that aren't problems. Executive orders are for weak presidents and legislatures that do nothing. Story 122. It is wonderful because, just like the Gulf of America, this will help lower the price of eggs and gasoline and tame inflation to make America great again. Story 123. It is absurd. Is the goal to prevent people from speaking other languages casually? What are the inevitable unintended consequences and costs of making such an official decree when it was not a national issue or concern previously? Story 124. Distraction. English is the most spoken language by far. He has already signed 100 ineffective executive orders. Story 125. This is related to the naturalization laws or standards. Therefore, the executive order is somewhat redundant. Wouldn't this, by default, make English the official language? English proficiency requirements. You do not need to be fluent in English. You only need to know enough English to ask and answer basic questions. You will be tested on your reading, writing, and comprehension skills. You will also need to demonstrate knowledge of U.S. history and government. Story 126. During the Obama administration, I would have been protesting in the streets if he had done that. In the Trump administration, I feel indifferent compared to the alienation of the entire world against the United States, except for Russia, of course. Story 127. It is a bad joke and is only being used to impress his supporters so they can feel good. It lacks substance and credibility, as Congress is the only body that can pass such a law. Story 128. Spanish has been spoken in America since before the establishment of the United States, and indigenous languages have been spoken even longer. Story 129. On the scale of destruction we are experiencing, I wish you would engage in more performative actions like this and less in attacking our allies, providing comfort to our enemies, and disregarding our country's previous humanitarian aid, both domestic and international. Story 130. English is the most spoken language in the United States, and many other countries have their own official languages. Therefore, it should not be a problem if we adopt one as well. Story 131. I believe it is a negative indicator that a current president is pursuing these controversial laws for his uninformed supporters. It seems as though he will require their backing for a much longer period than 4 years. Story 132. I don't think it's a big deal, but he was the one who said we have more important things to worry about. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.